Morning folks, Home Handyman again. Yesterday we started a sign project, so today we're going to pick up on that and we're going to move forward. Before I do, like always, I try to answer some of the questions off of the forum. One of the questions was a guy has a cordless drill and it's shooting sparks out the side here, and it's like, hey, what's causing it? Is it an easy fix? Well, it could be your springs, it could be your brushes, it also could be inside there's an armature. And if that's going bad, you might as well chuck it. You go buy yourself another one, or a Milwaukee, or a Rigid, or a Makita, something like that. But you can take it down to one of the repair shops if you can find one, or look online and see if there's a way that somebody will show you in a video how to tear it apart and replace the brushes, or at least look at them and see if they're going bad. Anyway, not much help. I don't have your drill in front of me, so I can't really troubleshoot it, but from seeing the sparks coming out the side, that's what I would suspect the problem is. Now, the next thing is, somebody said, hey, you keep asking me about this penetrating fluid. It's transmission oil and acetone, and just find a container, mark it, and I just use transmission fluid, acetone. I make the acetone a little bit stronger. You can make it 50-50, 2/3 to 1/3, whatever you're liking, and it does work either as good or better than PB Blaster, but I already have a video on that. So moving on from there, somebody says, hey, in the background I saw that you have a gallon container of WD-40. What good is that? Well, on Amazon warehouse deals I got one of these. It's a rechargeable sprayer. They're about $8 to $10. I've had this one for several years now. I buy a gallon of WD-40. I put it in there, I pressurize it. It's got a pressure relief valve on there, so you can't go over, I think it's 150, you can't, or 125 or 150, so you won't hurt yourself, because what it'll do is when it's pressurized to the max, it blows off anything extra, and it's a safety feature. And it actually comes with several different tips. So it's a good handy tool to have. This damn guy, every morning I come out to do videos, he's got to run one of his power tools. Okay, before we get started, I want to talk about what we're going to use. Right here is a Bosch. This is an industrial sized belt sander. It's a damn good one. I take care of it, I blow it out afterwards. But if you're unfamiliar with them, I was going to show you real quick. And my Makita operates the same way. There's a lever here on both. You can pull this, takes the belt on, put a new one on, or takes the belt off, put a new one on. Down on this side here, it's got this little knob. This is a tracking knob. It'll set the tracking of the belt. This is a dust bag. I would encourage you to use it. It saves from all that crap blowing all over. It's not a micron filter, but it does a damn good job. And the sawdust comes in handy if you want to make your own wood filler and fill in some like knot holes or something like that. You can mix it with some glue, and you can use this because it's the same wood dust that came off of what you're sanding, so it'll be real close. So that's another benefit to it. This one is variable speed. There's a knob right here. I can adjust this way down, way up. I usually leave it, you know, it goes all the way up to 6. I usually leave it around 5, 6, somewhere in there, because I put an aggressive belt on here. This got a 60 grit on it right now that we're going to use. You can get 40 grit, you can get less, you can get 120, you can get whatever grits you want, basically. Klingspor online sells a variety of belts. There's also lots of little sources. Anyway, let's get on with the project. What did we do with that piece of wood yesterday? Well, we glued it up. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can tilt this up and show you. Okay, so what I did is I use that Durham wood putty. Like I said, it's rock hard stuff, but it won't accept a stain. And you can't really do much with it unless you're going to paint over it, which is good for the fascia of the house, but not so good for wood signs and projects. But this is the back of the board, and it had some bad divots and holes. So I used that. It's glued for 24 hours. Like I said, I always let things sit for 24 hours. Okay, let's look at the other side. There's the other side, and I smeared that stuff all the way down it just to fill in any little divots. And now I'm going to take it over to the workbench, and we're going to use that Bosch sander. In just a minute, and I'll set it up. Okay, here I'm showing you a shot of it set on my workbench. Now what I do is I take some scrap wood and I make my own little clamping device. I drive a screw down right through here, and this holds this here so it sits against the wood, and I got this nice flat edge. And I do the same thing here in the back. This holds it really nicely tight in place, which is what I want when I run this sander, because this sander will grab that wood and throw it back at you. So now I'm going to hook it up and I'll show you. We're going to start sanding this flat. I want to get this prepped before we actually lay out this lady's diagram on there. So give me just a sec. I'll be right back. That's my sprinkler's kicking on and back in case you hear a hiss. On this board, when you're using this belt sander, you want to go with the grain on the finish side. Now this is the back. So I can go crosswise, I can do whatever I want. I don't care if I mark it up. It's going to be hidden, covered, and we'll do something with it so I don't go overboard with the sanding here on the back. I want to take it down to where it's nice and smooth. It feels level. You can look at the edges and say, yep, looks pretty dang level. Now we're going to flip it over in a minute and we're going to do the face of it. What I do on here before I flip it over, I'm going to put a seal coat on it. You can use whatever you want. I use shellac and I cut it down just a little bit with alcohol. You can just use it right out of the can, but I get it down at Ace Hardware. It lasts me a long time. I just use it for a seal coat. So I'll show you that right now and we'll go forward. But that's the technique with the belt sander. Keep it moving, okay? If you don't, it's going to dig in and you're going to get irregularities in the wood. Keep it moving, shut it off, feel it, look at it. If it's too high in one spot, take down some more. Flip it over if you want, set it on a bench, see if you got any wobble or tilt. You'll be able to see where it is. You can flip it back, take it out, okay? It's just a matter of playing around and getting used to using it. Okay, hold on one sec, we'll see what. This is the shellac. Like I said, it's got a little alcohol in it, and we're just gonna brush it on. I use one of the dollar store brushes, and all I do, this stuff will dry lightning quick. That's what I like about it, because you can keep working. And it does seal it, so that's kind of what we're after too. And I can always sand this, it's just a seal coat. Doesn't mean that I can't do a finish. And the nice thing about using shellac is even if I'm worried about it, it doesn't matter, because pretty much any finish you can think of will go on the top of the shellac or under it. That's the nice part about using it. So I'm going to coat this whole board. I'll be right back. Now when I'm done, and I got it all over here, I'm always used to making long strokes like this. You don't have to, it's the back, and it's just a sealer coat. Just a habit I've always been in. Somebody taught me a long time back. The longer your strokes with the grain and so forth, the less brush marks you're going to have to deal with. So, small tip. Okay, that's it. I'm going to let it dry for about 5, 10, 15 minutes. I'll be right back. Now, the cleanup for this is right here. All it is one of these dollar store special brushes, and one of those dollar store special Tupperware things, and I put alcohol in it. I let the brush soak for a while, then I go rinse it out, and I use some dishwashing soap. I clean it up, lay it out. I've been using this thing for months and months and months. So for rough work, you can't beat the dollar store stuff. You can get foam brushes too. Either way, it cleans up your brushes, they'll last longer. Or you can just throw them out because you go, well, I don't care because I got them at the dollar store. I keep reusing them until the bristles start to fall out or whatever, and then I throw them out. All right, let's move on. I'm going to flip the board over. Okay, this is the finished side, and so now I'm going to spend a little bit more time here, and what I do is I use my hand and I constantly feel where it seems to be uneven or where I think I need to take out more. This is a 60 grit belt. Keep this thing moving. It will take out a lot of wood very quickly. So, I'll give you a quick little demo. You can use one hand, but you're tempted to do this a lot, so I always put my other hand up here. Okay, I'm not going to have you watch all the sanding. I'm going to kill this for a second and then I'll start it back up after I got it sanded and show you what we'll do next. Okay, now we're ready to do the layout. Okay, now I use a program called Posterize It. It's free. It's online. And I take whatever template, I put it on there and I play around with the size until I get what the customer wants. So, it says the speakeasy. Okay. Now, Posterize It's free. Watch my previous videos. You'll see that in detail where to go, how to get it. This gets you the template, and then I center it on here the best I can in the way that I want it. In this case, I'm going to have this whole thing centered before we actually copy the artwork onto the board. So I mark it wherever. You can make a mark, top and bottom, once you got it centered. And then I'm going to use, and remember we squared the edges, so there's another advantage here. And I can use this great big carpenter's square and draw lines all the way down it so that I know where to tape this on here when it comes time. Give me just a sec, I'll be right back. Okay, let's see if you can see that. I drew lines top and bottom. There's a better shot. I got a line here, a line here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take carbon paper, because it's an easy way to do it. There's other methods. I don't like them as much. I'll still try them eventually, but I'm going to take carbon paper and I'm going to lay it just like this. And I'm going to put that template on here and I'm going to tape the corners, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's the sign. Now, all I did is I taped carbon paper behind it. I taped it right along that bordering, but I let the line show just a little bit. Then I took this template, the one that says the speakeasy, I laid it over it, and again I matched it up real close to the line. You'll see the pencil line runs here. I'm not so concerned about these edges at the minute because we're going to trim those anyway on the saw. And I've got the top to bottom looking pretty good. We may or may not run this through the table saw and take it down a little bit. This is the way that I do it. I don't cut this to its final dimensions until after I have everything laid out. And there's my gardener again. Damn, every time I go to do a video. Alright, hang on, and I'm going to just trace over this with a pencil. I'll be back and we'll lift it up. Okay, I used a carpenter's pencil and I traced over that template with just a simple carpenter's pencil. You can use a regular pencil or whatever you got. And I went over that template and I went over the scrolls. It came through right onto the wood. It looks really good. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a very light seal coat. I'll use this stuff right here. It's Krylon Clear. Now, why would I do that? Well, because I'm going to be handling this a lot and I don't want to smudge or have lift anything that I trace through. So just giving it just a real light coat, not going to hurt anything because we're going to sand and finish this anyway. There it is. So we have it all laid out now. I'm going to shoot that clear coat. Okay, I'll be right back. There it is. I moved my camera away because I don't want the spray getting on the lens. Anyway, I sprayed the clear coat. Now it's sealed. This stuff dries like lightning speed, like 10-15 minutes, because all I did is put a faint light touch. Then we're going to start making decisions on how we want to carve this. So I'm going to remove all the paper, I'll stand it up and we'll talk about it and then we'll move forward. Okay, now it's time to trim both edges. Now, you could do this on a table saw, but mine's a contractor table saw, so it's got a small bed. Now, the other way to do it, I can clamp these blocks, line up my blade. It'll go right along the edge perfectly fine. Alright, now it's squared that in. I'm going to flip it around. I'll do the other end and I'll be right back. Okay, I just cut the other end. Now we can bring down that width if we want to on the table saw. I'm going to take some measurements. We'll make that decision in a minute. Okay, so I began to do a little bit, and remember to turn the camera back on. This is my DeWalt. It's got a 60-degree V-groove bit in it. The way that I set it, I usually put my wrench here, bring the tip up, flush. It's roughly about 1/8 of an inch, and that seems to work perfect for sign carving. Then I fire it up and I start going right around all these lines. I won't fire it up right now, it makes too much noise. And I already went ahead and I did this, okay, and I got this all carved out. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to put another real light coat of that shellac alcohol mixture and seal it. Then I'm going to turn around and we're going to use either Rust-Oleum Primer Black, or you can buy Marsh Ink, that's off of Amazon. Both work equally as well. So let me do that real quick, I'll be right back. Now one more thing I wanted to show you. Before I put that sealer on there, I use one of these brushes, dollar store, and I just go like this. It's all the little fuzzies out. Now if it doesn't, I also have an ice pick, and I've got a small chisel, and I've got an old screwdriver around here somewhere, I can't find it right now, that's got like a curved, I used a grinder and carved a curved sharp bit. You can use these and you can go around and you can clean all this out. And that helps because once you spray this and one of these little dust nubs gets loose, you got another white spot there. Now, you can also correct that by using a Sharpie. If you're doing this, all these insets with black, the Sharpie works good for like touch-up. So those are some of the tools that I use as we go along. But right now I've brushed it down. I got that sealer coat on. Let me shoot this black. I'm going to pull my camera away. I'll be right back. Okay, I'll zoom in a sec. This is the board. I shot it with that black. Now this isn't the final coat of everything. I did this and then I'm going to sand it, blow it off. We'll look at it and decide if there's any areas that need to be touched up, or do you want to add more to it. You can do whatever you want at this point. It's your sign. So we're going to play around with it. I got to let this dry, so I'm going to shut this down for about 30 minutes and then we'll come back. I got some overspray on there. I did it on purpose with that sealer coat under there. It's not going to matter. I don't need to mask anything off because with the sealer coat it'll sand off much easier. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a light spray of black anyway and sand it lightly. We'll do some fading and playing around here, I think. Try some new stuff. Anyway, alright, shut this off. I'll be back when it dries. Okay, getting later in the afternoon on part 2 here. Again, I'm going to bust this up so that it doesn't go too long. You might get tired of watching them or you might lose interest somewhere along the way. But I'm showing you a lot of detail, I know. So we're going to call this the end of part 2. In part 3, I'll start by sanding off the black and then we'll start by cutting this thing down to width. And so we'll do that here shortly. Look for the next video. It should be up in a day or two. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you folks very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.